everyone, welcome to MotorHome Beat. My name is Alan and today we're going to the final resting place of Dusty Springfield. She really is a special singer. It's a very tragic story but a very interesting one, so worth watching if you've got the time. And behind me we've got Henley-on-Thames. Beautiful, look. Can you see? That's the bridge that crosses it. There we go. Dusty started off with the Liner sisters. They were a little bit like Al McCogan, but you know, with the big dresses and that, but they didn't last very long. And then she started her own group, which was the Springfields, which had a brother, Tom Springfield, Mike Hurst, and of course Dusty. She was the lead singer. Her brother was always sort of very competitive with her. She was always a little bit in awe of him because of his intelligence. But Mike used to say when they were doing the routines, it was quite funny because Dusty did the big comb over and then lacquered it all, and they'd be singing and then it'd smell her hair because her hair was constantly being lacquered and she didn't wash it. And let's put it this way, it was quite an experience. The difference with Dusty was that unlike most of the women from that era, she actually wanted creative control. She did not want to be told what to do. Most of the female singers turned up, did the song, and then it was entirely up to the management what happened. Let me just turn it around so we can see our friends here, look. Hello guys, how are you doing today? They're waiting for tea time, I think. Okay, we're going to go to St Mary's the Virgin Church, which is just around the corner over there. I'm going to spin it around, look. It's just over there. You take a left and we've got the churchyard coming up. So I just got across the road without being flattened, basically. And then in 1964 she got a really good gig. It was the Ready Steady Go programme, you know, for the latest pop, a bit like Top of the Pops but in the early days. But the thing with that is it was complete mayhem. All the artists were bumping into the guests and the guests were going where they wanted, and especially at Christmas time everyone was completely drunk. You know, it was a free-for-all basically, complete mayhem. And she said, yeah, it was, she controlled it, but she had bad eyesight and she had to memorise the cue cards because she couldn't read them. So she did really well, but some days the guests just didn't turn up. She had one day that Sandy Shaw was supposed to come on. She beckoned for her, you know, no sign of Sandy. So what did Dusty do? Kicked the shoes off, went on and did the Dusty routine. Very good singer. I was absolutely smitten with her when I watched the documentary. She's really something special. She's got that slightly masculine, deep voice, but with power, you know, quality. She can turn the song into something special. That's why she was so great, really. People often wondered why she had so much mascara on the eyes, you know, really, she was known for it, really dark mascara. That was the short-sightedness. She was looking in the mirror and people said, why is she looking in the mirror all the time? Is she so vain? It wasn't. She couldn't, once she took the glasses off, she couldn't see her eyes, you know, to put the makeup on, and then she put so much on, she troweled it on. But she was a very, very modest woman. You know, everybody who knew her said that she did not have any airs and graces. She actually thought that Dusty Springfield wasn't her. When she saw the name up in lights or whatever, she said, that's not me. You know, she thought, it just isn't me. She couldn't accept that she was a talent that everybody wanted to watch. Very modest, very underrating to herself. And then in 1968, she got the offer to go to America to produce a record. And she did Dusty in Memphis. But the problem was that when she got there, they kind of tried to pigeonhole her into a certain style of music. And it just didn't work for her. She was used to a kind of a big band sound behind her. And they put a sort of stripped down version of the music behind her. She just didn't feel happy. She was on her own. She was lonely. She started taking drugs and alcohol, and she kind of imploded, really, you know. It wasn't a good time for her. The problem with artists in England is that you'll get somebody and they'll be a star of the Palladium one day, and then when that's over, all they've got left is things like you know, the club circuit or pantomime and this kind of thing. So the choices in England were quite small, and that's what the problem was for English artists like Dusty. And then she was offered a tour in South Africa, but the problem was that she was aware of the civil rights movement, and she She refused to play to segregated audiences. All good power to her. A personal assistant said she was a difficult person to work with because she was such a perfectionist. But everybody who loved her, everybody who actually worked with her, they absolutely loved her. She had a self-deprecating humour. She was just fun to be with. You know, considering that in reality she also had a very dark side to her. She had a manic depressive element, which was quite awful, really. Billie Jean King, who was a friend of hers, said that one day she was with her, and it's going to be hard to believe this, but she felt so depressed she ran head first at speed to try and hit her head on the wall, and Billie Jean jumped in front of her. The force of the impact of her head took the wind out of Billie Jean, and she said, I was absolutely gasping for breath. If she'd have managed to hit that wall with her head, she could have easily killed herself. And that shows you how dark she felt sometimes. She definitely had manic depressive tendencies. There's no doubt. It's terribly sad, that, isn't it? You know, maybe she could have done with better help. I don't know. One of the most successful peers for her was when she met Burt Bacharach, and he said that when he gave a song to Dusty, she could turn that song into something completely different, just by the way that she sang the song and emphasised everything. She put her own element into it, and it suddenly became something much greater. And of course, I just don't know what to do with myself. The big hit, wasn't it? Just got to swing it around there. Look at these lovely little cottages. Aren't they cute? Beautiful, aren't they? It's a lovely location. Really traditionally oldly worldly England. In 1983 she met Ted Abraki, and they married. But it was a disaster, I'm afraid, unfortunately. Common theme coming on here, isn't it? A disaster. But she was a violent woman. She'd been to prison. She used to attack Dusty, and yeah, it lasted for a couple of years, but it was an absolute disaster. It's much better when she got out of that relationship. And when she'd been in America, she'd done so badly, financially, she'd been sleeping on people's couches. It were a very bad time for her. The Pet Shop Boys, in a way, saved her because they contacted her and they wanted to perform with her. And they met up and they were very much looking forward to it. But they had a little problem in the beginning because she was nervous and she'd stick on the words, you know, and it just wasn't quite managing it. And then when she got going, she was putting fancy vocals in. So the Pet Shop Boys said to her, we don't want that, Dusty, we just want you. We want the voice, that's all we want. And then she got the idea. She slowed it down, sang in her own way, and that turned it into something special. And they were just amazed by her. And when Neil Tennant of the Pet Shop Boys met her, he said, she's got that special quality. She's like Elvis, Bowie, Lisa, Dusty. They've all got that special quality. And yeah, I know what he means. She's got that fantastic, slightly masculine voice, but it's really attractive. She's got a new fan in me, that's for sure. And I'm afraid we've got to the sad bit, folks. We have to, don't we? In the late 90s, one day she didn't feel very well. She had a bad throat. It was common that if she was singing quite a few times, you know, different versions of a song, she would eventually start to lose her voice, but it was painful, so she went to see a doctor. The doctor said, you haven't got a problem with your throat, but they took her in for further tests and they found she'd got breast cancer. The breast cancer, she matter-of-factly took it on board. She said, okay, we'll deal with it. In fact, her friends were more upset than her. But unfortunately, 2 years later, it developed even worse and it had gone into her bones, and that was it. She had support. I mean, she had her friends and a manager. She had Paul McCartney and Linda McCartney. Linda McCartney was suffering from cancer at the same time. And they used to write to each other every day and phone call, and they'd send presents, and they were supporting her, was Linda and Paul. But then she got the sad news one day that Linda had died, and that really knocked her back. And then one day she was asking her personal assistant and her friends to look for alternative remedies in America. And her PA said to her, who was a good friend, Dusty, you're not going to get cured from this. The best thing you can do is to live your life and enjoy it. And she took it on board. From that moment on, she changed. she'd grasped every moment she got left and, you know, started to enjoy her life again. Unfortunately, it wasn't for too long. Yeah. Dusty Springfield was born Mary Isobel Catherine O'Brien on the 16th of April 1939 in West Hampstead, the second child of Gerard Anthony O'Brien, 1904 to 1979, and Catherine Ann K. O'Brien, 1900 to 1974, both of Irish descent. Springfield's elder brother, Dionysus Patrick O'Brien, was later known as Tom Springfield. Her father, who was raised in British India, worked as a tax accountant and consultant. Her mother came from an Irish family, originally from Tralee, County Kerry. Springfield was brought up in High Wycombe, Buckinghamshire, until the early 1950s, and later lived in Ealing in West London. She attended St Anne's Convent School, Northfields, a traditional all-girls school. A comfortable middle-class upbringing was disturbed by a dysfunctional tendency in her family. Her father's perfectionism and her mother's frustration sometimes resulted in food-throwing incidents. Springfield and her brother were both prone to food-throwing as adults. She was given the nickname Dusty for playing football with the boys in the street and was described as a tomboy. Springfield was raised in a music-loving family. Her father tapped out rhythms on the back of her hand and encouraged her to guess the musical piece. She listened to a wide range of music, including George Gershwin, Rodgers and Harts, Rodgers and Hammerstein, Cole Porter, Count Basie, Duke Ellington and Glenn Miller. A fan of American jazz and the vocalist Peggy Lee and Joe Stafford, she wished to sound like them. At the age of 12, she recorded herself performing the Irving Berlin song When Moonlight Cuckoo Leaves Alabama at a record shop in Ealing. Dusty died in Henley-on-Thames, Oxfordshire, on the 2nd of March 1999, a month before her 60th birthday. Dusty's funeral was attended by hundreds of fans and people from the music business, including Elvis Costello, Lulu and the Pet Shop Boys. It was at the Catholic funeral, which took place at the Church of St Mary's the Virgin in Heeley-on-Thames, where Springfield had lived during her last years.
The guests included fellow stars of the 60s like Kiki Dee and Lulu, and the Pet Shop Boys, who helped resurrect her career in 1987 after 2 decades.
Look up to. And Dusty was at the top of that list.
She was amazing to work with in the studio.
Dedication to her memory was placed in the church graveyard in accordance with Springfield's wishes. She was cremated and some of her ashes were buried in Henley, while the rest were scattered by her brother Tom Springfield at the cliffs of Moher in Ireland. Anyway, we're here now. I've seen the grave. Just got to the sad bit and I'm here. Whew. Shivers again, shivers, because I really did like this one, and it's behind me now, look. I'm going to show you the location. It's there. It's in a beautiful spot, look. Next to the church. It's very quaint, isn't it? It's beautifully quaint. Okay, let's go and have a look at the grave. Here we are. Right. Here we go. Hello, Dusty. This has been one of the biggest pleasures for me to do this film. Dusty Springfield, OBE, 1939 to 1999. Look at the little flowers there, they're lovely, aren't they? Dusty, you were a phenomenal singer and you had a complicated life, it's a shame, but what a talent you were. Got some potted plants there, look, which is nice. And people still visit. Look, there's fresh flowers there. Yeah. Got to say, it's one of the most moving documentaries. Well, I watched 2 actually on you, and I was just blown away. You've got a big fan in me now for sure. It's changed me. Thank you, Dusty. Well, there we go. It just shows you, though, once again, it's another great example of people can have, you know, I mean, she was struck down with the sea, wasn't she? But that wasn't the point. Many of the years before that, she'd been really in a lot of mental anguish, and she had a good close friends around her and a good manager, a good PA, but she kind of destroyed herself with her own depression. It's a shame, isn't it? You know, we've got one life, and sometimes people can't avoid these problems and pains, but when you actually bring them on yourself with your mind, I'm not saying it was her fault though, because she probably had manic depressive tendencies, but you know, or bipolar, sometimes they call it nowadays. But yep. Oh wow, let's have a look. Whoa, this is great. God, it's held together by string. Well, metal brackets. Look at that. Yeah, very old, isn't it? The timber frame is still there. Oh, it's the Chantry House. Let's have a look. There we go. If you want to read the board, it's there, look. It says that part of that is 14th century. Wow, amazing that, isn't it, what do you think? Okay folks, well that's another one, and don't forget to subscribe and ding the bell if you want to see the new ones when they pop up. You won't miss them, they're free, and it's lovely to see your comments and the thumbs up, especially the comments, because I love reading them all. They're so interesting. People know so much that you don't know, and we become like a little community, don't we? And I recognise quite a lot of you, and I'm sure you recognise each other now, so it's been really superb as the comments recently. So from me, Alan at MotorHome Beep Beep, and the chap in the plane up there, we'll all say goodbye for today. Bye, take care.